the 13th century, a time of unprecedented global upheaval. Forged in the crucible of Mongol expansion, from the steppes of Central Asia, a force unlike any before it swept across continents, reshaping empires and redrawing the very map of the known world. This era, often referred to as Pax Mongolica, or the Mongol Peace, is frequently understood as a period of relative calm and facilitated trade across the vast Eurasian landmass. Yet its impact was far from uniform, especially on the fragmented principalities that would one day coalesce into modern Russia. Our journey today delves deep into the often overlooked and complex legacy of Pax Mongolica, specifically examining how nearly 2.5 centuries of Mongol rule irrevocably altered the trajectory of Russia, culminating in a seismic shift in its political and geographical heart, the relocation of its capital. Imagine a world where trade routes stretched unimpeded from the Mediterranean to the Pacific, where goods, ideas, and technologies flowed, with a newfound freedom across previously insurmountable barriers. This was the promise of Pax Mongolica. Under the iron fist, yet strategically astute leadership of Genghis Khan and his successors, the Mongol Empire established a vast dominion. This unparalleled expanse brought with it a system designed to ensure stability and secure lucrative trade routes, invigorating the ancient Silk Road and even fostering the development of nascent maritime networks. This period was indeed a conduit for an extraordinary exchange of diverse cultures, intricate technologies, and profound philosophies. However, for the lands that would become Russia, this peace arrived on the back of devastating conquest. The year 1240 stands as a grim marker, witnessing the brutal fall of Kiev, the spiritual and political heart of Kievan Rus. This event ushered in an era known to Russian history as the Tatar Yoke, a period of Mongol dominance that stretched for an agonizing 240 years, from approximately 1240 to 1480. During this extended subjugation, Russia was forced to pay burdensome tributes to its Mongol overlords, a heavy economic burden that plunged its principalities into deep poverty and effectively severed its vital connections. With the burgeoning developments of Western Europe, the political ramifications of Mongol rule were profound and far-reaching. The established political structures of the Russian principalities were systematically dismantled. The Mongols, in their pragmatic approach to governance, did not necessarily seek to assimilate or transform Russian society into their own image, but rather to control and extract resources. This strategy inadvertently stifled the organic growth of Russian urbanization and stunted cultural exchange with other European powers. The nascent political development of Russia was forcibly arrested as local, autonomous forces that might have challenged central authority, such as regional nobility and an emerging urban middle class, were systematically weakened or eliminated. This created a political vacuum, fertile ground for a new kind of centralized power to emerge. Culturally, the influence of the Mongols, though often subtle, permeated various aspects of Russian life. The Russian language itself bears testament to this prolonged interaction, incorporating numerous loanwords of Mongol origin, particularly in administrative, military, and equestrian terminology. While some historians argue that the Mongol impact was primarily destructive, it is undeniable that the encounter left an indelible mark on the Russian cultural psyche and institutional development. It was within this crucible of subjugation and transformation that an unlikely power began its ascent: Moscow. As the Golden Horde, the Mongol successor, state that held sway over the Russian principalities, began its gradual but inexorable decline. The Grand Duchy of Moscow skillfully exploited the shifting political landscape. The astute rulers of Moscow learned to navigate the complex and often brutal political labyrinth of the Khan's permission system, leveraging their position to consolidate power and systematically expand their territorial influence. They understood that demonstrating loyalty and efficiently collecting tribute for the Mongols could grant them a degree of autonomy and legitimacy over their rivals. This strategic subservience allowed Moscow to suppress competing principalities and emerge as the preeminent power among the fragmented Russian lands. Paradoxically, the Pax Mongolica, despite its destructive aspects, also contained elements of political and economic integration that transcended the previously fragmented regional histories of Eurasia. The Mongols were master organizers, and their empire, though built on conquest, facilitated an unprecedented scale of interregional exchange. They established new cities, such as Sarai on the lower Volga River, which quickly transformed into bustling hubs of trade and communication, connecting disparate parts of their vast domain. They meticulously regularized trade networks, standardized currency units, and ensured the safety of merchants, all of which contributed to an economic dynamism not seen before in many of these regions. This infrastructure, initially designed to serve Mongol interests, would inadvertently lay some groundwork for future Russian integration. Let us delve deeper into the specific Mongol entity that directly governed the Russian lands, the Golden Horde, also known as the Kipchak Khanate. This was one of the four great successor Khanades that emerged following the fracturing of the vast Mongol Empire after the death of Genghis Khan. The Golden Horde inherited and controlled the northwestern territories of the Mongol Empire, stretching across the vast Kazakh steppes and encompassing the fertile southern plains of what is now Russia and Ukraine. Its dominion was extensive, and its influence on the Russian principalities was direct and profound. The decline of the Golden Horde was a protracted affair, marked by internal strife, succession crises, and the rise of new regional powers. Ultimately, it was fragmented and weakened by various internal and external pressures. The final blow to its sovereignty came with the rise of independent Khanades, such as the Crimean Khanate, which eventually delivered its demise. However, for Russia, the true moment of liberation arrived when the Grand Duchy of Moscow, having consolidated its power and resources, finally declared its independence from the Golden Horde, thus casting off the oppressive Mongol-Tatar yoke. This declaration of independence was not a sudden event, but the culmination of centuries of strategic maneuvering and the slow, arduous process of building a unified Russian identity under Moscow's leadership. The most significant and enduring impact of Pax Mongolica on Russia was undoubtedly the rise of Moscow as its undeniable, political, and eventually spiritual capital. Under Mongol suzerainty, Moscow, initially an unassuming outpost, steadily gained strength and prominence. The Mongols' administrative systems, particularly their methods of census, taking, taxation, and military organization, indirectly influenced and, in some ways, inadvertently strengthened the emerging Moscow Principality. Moscow's princes learned to adopt and adapt these organizational principles, applying them to consolidate their own territories and build a more centralized state. The Mongol model of absolute authority, albeit exercised through a distant Khan, may have also provided a template for the future absolutist tendencies of Russian czars. While we focus on Russia, it's worth noting the broader geographical implications of Mongol rule. On the other side of the empire, Kublai Khan, a grandson of Genghis Khan, established his capital in Beijing, a city that was meticulously planned and developed into a major political and economic hub. He also greatly enhanced China's maritime capabilities through the expansion of the Grand Canal, fostering both internal and external trade. Beijing, as the heart of the Mongol Yuan dynasty, served as another critical node in the vast network of East-West exchange, facilitated by the Mongol Empire, demonstrating the pervasive impact of Mongol administrative prowess across diverse cultures and geographies. In conclusion, the Pax Mongolica era cast a long, complex, and often contradictory shadow over Russia. The period of Mongol domination, the Tatar yoke, inflicted severe hardships, suppressing political development, hindering cultural exchange with the West, and imposing significant economic burdens. It is an undeniable chapter of struggle and suffering in Russian history. Yet, within this adversity, a profound transformation occurred. The fragmentation of the Golden Horde and the unique administrative and military legacy of Mongol rule created an environment where a previously minor principality, Moscow, could strategically ascend to unparalleled power. Moscow's ability to adapt, consolidate, and ultimately liberate itself from Mongol rule cemented its position as the undisputed center of a burgeoning Russian state. Thus, the 240 years of Pax Mongolica, while a period of immense challenge, ultimately served as an unlikely crucible that forged the modern Russian state, with Moscow at its enduring heart, a testament to how external pressures can, paradoxically, be catalysts for internal consolidation and the reorientation of national destiny. This shift was not merely a geographical relocation. It was a fundamental redefinition of Russian identity and power, catalyzed by the very forces that sought to control it.